speaking of drawing money, there was an open challenge for the TNT title that we're a fan of his. Powerhouse Hobbs, one of our chosen ones that we'd like to see more of, has won the TNT title now. And we've talked about how that happened. He had an open challenge, and it was answered by Silas Young because they were in Milwaukee. I'm not knocking Silas Young. He's from Milwaukee. That's why he got the booking. It done work for Ring of Honor. He's been around independence for a long time. But it was not like... obviously, this was a 3-move squash. So it's not like they said, hey, Silas, you're an experienced veteran. Come and put this kid over and maybe help lead him. And I'm not saying that they should have Hobbs going 5 to 7 minutes competitively with an experienced veteran if he's never been on fucking television before for AEW, which Silas Young has not, to my knowledge. But the problem has become now that they are continuing to surround Hobbs with QT and Solo. I don't know where Komoroto and Go went. They went. And the QTV girl. And as soon Hobbs looks great. He's got a great entrance, the lighting and the blah, blah, blah. And he looks great. And then suddenly here comes QT and another job guy that nobody really recognizes on sight and some nameless girl. And they come down with him and you know not to care. And then he's put in the ring with a guy who's already in the ring. We know what that means. And that has never been on this television program before. So, and they showed video of Hobbs pulling up in his brand new car that QT just gave him 5 days ago, apparently on the Friday program, they said. And the announcers are talking about how much he loves that car, like it's his goddamn dog that he's had for 10 years. It's like the booker is 9 years old and we couldn't see this coming. The only reason they put him out there and even gave him a win in a pesky little nuisance thing like a match to get your champion over against a guy that the vast majority of the audience has never heard of before was just to get him out there and establish the car on screen. So as soon as Hobbs beat Silas Young in 3 moves, and by the way, the best part of the fucking match was a sign in the crowd that said, stop trying to make QT happen.
Apparently that was a listener of the show because there was another sign that they said, I believe it's the same person, that they said security took away. And it was QTV is a result of bad creative.
Well, anyway, Hobbs wins with a power bomb. And then for whatever reason, QT and Powerhouse grab Silas Young and attempt to drag him up the entranceway. What, were they going to go fucking grind him up and sell his fucking fat for soap? What? Why were they dragging him away with him? Like, oh, goddamn, now he's our drunk friend at the party. We got to take him home. And suddenly on the screen, there is Wardlow standing next to Powerhouse's Hobbs's car that he's had for 5 days that they just showed a video of him arriving in right before he got in the ring for this squash match. How many times do they show people pulling up in their brand new car right before a squash match, Brian?
Never that I can think of.
All right. So there's Wardlow, and he's got a pipe, and he busts the car up with a pipe. And then he takes a rope stanchion because the car is not even in the parking lot. They've done a gimmick where Hobbs intimidated the valet parking guy, so there is literally a velvet rope and 2 rope stanchions sitting in front of this car that's in the middle of a parking lot around nothing else. And then he goes and walks over, and there just happens to be a forklift with the keys in it, apparently.
That's right.
Sitting in this empty parking lot next to this car that's been roped off by a 5-foot velvet rope. And it takes forever because those forklifts are not sports cars. They don't move quickly, but he gets the forklift while back in the arena, they're just watching this on the monitor or on the screen. I would assume by the time that the forklift pulled up, Hobbs could have been out there. But nevertheless, he turns the car over with the forklift. So back in the arena, Hobbs naturally figures I'll get even for him doing that by powerbombing Silas Young off the stage onto two carefully prearranged tables that are sitting off the side of the stage. But as they set up and get ready to do that, Wardlow's music plays in the arena, and naturally, even though he's nowhere around, the guy that Hobbs already has a hold of that he could just throw, he lets him go, and they look around for Wardlow. Indil, here comes Wardlow. And they have, and when I use the term big pull apart, this was the best part of this segment, but still it wasn't what I would call a big pull apart. They have a pull apart with the agents and job guys where neither one of them ever even went down or left their feet. They just punched each other until people pull them back, and then they punch each other again, and boom. And then Hobbs just left. And you see him with a couple of people on the left side of the screen, and he's not really protesting. He just turns around, goes down the entranceway, and Wardlow grabs Solo and picks him up for a power bomb. And remember, I mentioned the prearranged tables off the side of the deal. Did you catch how Mr. Solo landed on those tables, or that table, Brian?
I did see that, yes.
He went, they're sitting two side by side, crossways from him, and he goes completely through the first one, the closest one to him. But the only part of him that even touched the second one was the back of his fucking head. So the second one didn't break or even give. And if it had been, one would assume, either an inch off north or south, or maybe just even, it just wasn't his time to die. It should have broken his, snapped his neck, severed his spinal cord. That's a lot more than a 3-foot fall off a front porch when a 6.5-foot guy is power bombing you off a raised stage through a fucking lunchroom table. But he didn't put him quite far enough. So, but like we said, one table at least broke, so the fans didn't set the seats on fire. But the brain damage that the back of his head got off the second table, we may have to, I don't know, revisit that in 15 or 20 years when he can't remember his own zip code.
And none of it means anything. There's no point to it. It's at the point now where it's just another pop. I mean, you're doing it to Solo, who no one cares about. So you're just trying to get the pop of someone going through a table. But we see it every week, so it's not a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
Hobbs, whenever we talked about him for maybe a year and a half, him and Starks were together, then they feuded. The only thing I can remember you maybe saying is he could use a mouthpiece. It was never, let's put him in a faction with job people, and QT Marshall would be the mouthpiece. If you're trying to get him over, which it seemed like they were ready to do something with him, why would you do this? The sign in the crowd was the most accurate thing, and you could apply a lot of people to it. Stop trying to make QT Marshall a thing. Because he's been there a long time, and to the best of my knowledge, no one's clamoring for more. And all it has done is taken Hobbs down a step. If Hobbs and them could stand in the ring and watch the monitor of Wardlow destroying the car, but no one could run out there to try and stop him, how the hell did he get back in so quickly? Should have been the same amount of time, shouldn't it, that it would have taken them to get there?
No, he did the Hogan thing. He went with the international date line around the circumference of the world.
I guess so.
At the equator. Okay, and let me just ask then, when you said yes, I said with a mouthpiece, because that he has intensity, but he needs someone to talk him up. I agree with making Wardlow part of a package with someone at ringside, but I wasn't talking about
Wardlow or Hobbs.
Or I'm sorry, Hobbs. Hobbs with a manager, but I'm not talking about people that have already been pigeonholed as underneath, preliminary, middle card, whatever. Imagine, I know it's not ever going to happen, but a Powerhouse Hobbs with a weekly push of wins and domination and physical presence, while Paul Heyman was just doing 3 minutes a week of talking about him and what you'd have after 3 months or so. That's what I'm talking about.
But that's the problem with these managers a lot of the time. I'm considering QT a manager. You need to talk about and talk up the wrestler. Should be about nothing else. That's what Heyman does perfectly.
But see, because QT is one of the people that fucking sits in with Tony and helps him do his paperwork and arrange his columns, apparently they've somehow convinced Tony that the idea is that QT will help get Hobbs over. And being around QT, because I don't know any other way to explain this. Nobody wants to see any of this. It's self-indulgent and ridiculous. Anyway, I wrote at that point, I don't honestly know if I can watch any more of this, but there was more to come.